Great. Are you shooting me shooting them?
Yeah.
Where do you want the chair?
CJ, take a picture of Eric shooting him while he's shooting us.
Yeah. And then we need somebody shooting her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Faff around.
Faff.
That doesn't translate into English.
F-A-F-F.
Oh,
Faff.
okay.
I'm going to faff around.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, faffing around.
Sounds like you need to buy me dinner first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's also up there with like, what's he doing? Oh God, he's just faffing around. Like, yeah. So, yeah, I could quite imagine, your other half here saying, "Are you doing something? Just faffing around?"
Faffing around. Yeah. She would. Yeah, she'd say it.
I've been thinking. I've also been learning to speak Texas.
Have you?
Yeah. So I'm.
A fur piece.
I'm fixing to learn
You're
more.
fixing to.
Yeah. I realised that the creatures that bit my legs are
Chiggers.
they're chiggers.
I remember you put that on Facebook.
Yeah. I did. Yeah, they're chiggers and stuff of the range of.
Now, how much in the episode can you mix 4K and 1080, or is that not the intent?
That's a really, really, really interesting question.
There.
No, I want to put it between here if I can. It's a tremendously interesting question because. Thank you. So let's start at the beginning. Father and son team, if you will, and Gordon, the flying bug, I guess, started with you when you unexpectedly, inadvertently, or mistakenly purchased a warbird.
Yes, it really goes back to when I was a little kid, and my father, being a B-24 engineer, took me to air shows as soon as he could carry me around. And I always, thought I wanted a warbird, but never thought that one would be for sale, and never thought that I would be able to afford one. And went to the air show here in Addison, and one had a for sale sign. And I went and asked one of my very best friend if he wanted half of a plane, and he flew. And of course I didn't. And he said, "Sure, call me when you want me to come up with the money." And I called him the next week, and we met and bought a T6. 2 weeks later, I signed up for flying lessons.
Yeah, was that a little bit rash to purchase it without any, without the ability to fly it?
Probably, but not out of character.
Yeah. Just for the record, he would kill me if I did that.
So the T6 came home, and how was Taylor with that?
Taylor was fine. The first thing we started doing would be taxiing to get fuel, and later on he started flying in a booster seat. I had a little custom chute made for him, and
I didn't want to leave the ground though.
No, he never wanted to leave the ground. But after he figured out that flying was fun, he always wanted to go flying. And the first big adventure was when we left in 1995 from Los Angeles and flew to New York City and wound up with 125 other World War II aircraft over the Statue of Liberty. Taylor was 5.5 years old and rode coast to coast on a booster seat for the entire event.
Taylor, that must have been mind-warping for you as a child, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, but then I'd grown up in the backseat of the T6, and so it was kind of like home. It's what we did on the weekends. That was our weekend activity, and so Freedom Flight was amazing just because of the people you got to meet along the way, because the warbird movement in a whole, everyone's has a common love of aviation and these old airplanes, but it is kind of fractionalized. You have the Texas warbird crowd, the California warbird crowd, the Northeast, and it was this conglomerate of all these people with the same interest going coast to coast. And as a 6-year-old kid, it was amazing getting to meet all the pilots and all the veterans that came out to all the air shows. And I consider myself very fortunate, but it kind of saddens me too, because I'll be the last generation that really got to know the men and women of our armed forces that were my age or less and flew these into combat just so we could sit here today.
Gordon, when your father was a B-24
Engineer.
What bearing did that have on you in terms of the purchase of the T6 and
Well, it was more the exposure. We watched all the shows as all of us growing up in the 50s and 60s did. We went to the air shows, and they were still flying that type of aircraft. My uncle was a tail gunner of B-25s. My mother had been the chief dietitian on the world's largest hospital ship during the war, and so that exposure with all of the veterans of their friends, and these were just our household friends, really gave me an appreciation of what the planes represented. And wanting to continue that, it was just the romantic aspect of honoring these veterans.
Sorry, I'll stop at that point to say that in that sequence we're going to do a whole talk through of what you've done in real detail on the aircraft. There's no point in expending energy on that now. In fact, actually, we'll start a new file on both these. So you spent a long while, not just on the conventional rebuild of the aircraft, but immense detail, if you don't mind me saying, near obsessive. Or perhaps not just near obsessive, obsessive detail. You arrive at Oshkosh, the centre of the aviation world. Did you go there thinking, oh, I might win this?
Our intent was always to show the aircraft, but more so, and it was kind of evident in the way we intended and did create our display, that it was not a showcase of this airplane, but it was a showcase of L-5s. And so we went in just ready to have fun, meet people, and display the aircraft. It was kind of daunting being, 19 years old and taking your L5 up to Oshkosh, because the first time that it really left the pattern at prop wash was the leave for Oshkosh. So we'd put about 10 hours, I think it was 10 hours that the insurance company and we wanted on the aircraft, and I sat there in the pattern and burned it off, and the first time we left it, we went to Oshkosh. But it was very, very well received up there, and for someone, I was 19 years old, and I'd always looked up to not only the T6 gang, but all the people with the fighters, the bombers, the people I looked at in the magazines, and was like, wow, hopefully one day. And those were all the people that were coming over to the L5 and looking at it and really kind of appreciating the level of detail we went into. And it was a very, very humbling experience and very rewarding to get to interact with all those individuals.
Well, and the word had gotten around that Taylor's plane was ready and it was coming up. Everybody knew it was, and this kid was 19 years old. And so when it did arrive, I arrived with the ground support stuff in the car, and when he taxied up, many of the guys that were judges and a lot of the people around there that we had known were virtually swarming the plane, because this was, a little bit atypical. It wasn't some millionaire that was restoring his P-51. This was a 19-year-old that had restored an L-5 from ground up.
And the Sentinel 1 was the observer version. It didn't have the litter bay in the back where you could inspect. And so we've got a Sentinel 1 hanging up in the hangar here that's a future restoration. But that aircraft is really unique in that it's the only Sentinel 1 that we know of in existence. It also is kind of a testament to how much these aircraft move around. So it arrived in India in fall in 1944, May 44.
Hi, I'm Eric Johnston. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and subscribe to my channel to enjoy many more aviation videos to come.